I have a title for my presentation, and the title of my presentation is simply this, and that is how to be successful, how to be successful. Now, the first question you have to ask yourself is, why do you want to be successful? Now, it turns out that for men, the primary reason why men want to be successful, the data clearly shows that why do you want to be successful? It turns out for men, the primary reason why men want to be successful is to get chicks. Is really what it comes down to. Now, I do a lot of corporate functions, and at corporate functions, I can't get up and say, get chicks. So I have a corporate version. Why do men want to be successful? The corporate version is they want to, in order to increase DNA propagation opportunities, or DPO. And that's a memo apologizing for the speaker that said, get chicks. Now, why do they want to be successful after that? They want to be successful in order to reach a higher level of mansplaining. A higher level of mansplaining, which is to pontificate, is where men ultimately want to get. Now, you're wondering, for women, why do women want to be successful? For women, I don't really know. Now, it's not that I don't care or I don't think it's relevant. It's just that I know if I got into this subject, I would get into trouble. So it's better for me just to step back and say, I don't know, let somebody else handle it. So this brings me, though, to my my gender-neutral success flow chart. So here's my gender-neutral success flow chart. So the first step is the question, do you want to be a success? If the answer to that is no, all you have to do is get premium cable. You'll be all set at that point. On the other hand, you do want to be a success. The next very important question you have to ask yourself is, well, are you okay with being an asshole? The answer to that is, as said, you are all set. I can't help you. Down there. On the other hand, you're not comfortable with being an asshole. It gets much more complicated. That is like, well, were you born with a lot of money? Are you sure you're not an asshole? But it all feeds down here, which is, I can't help you. That's the honest motivational message. I cannot help you. Because the typical motivational message looks like this. This is the typical motivational message. It's like, so here's your goal. Your goal's behind this brick wall. You're supposed to fire yourself at the brick wall, fail, believe in self, read a stupid book, and just keep repeating this. When the most helpful motivational message might be, maybe you should give up. Maybe this goal isn't in your wheelhouse, as they say. And some people think that the universe will take care of the brick wall and that the universe will make everything awesome. The problem is that the universe just doesn't give a shit. And then there's the people that have embraced the brick wall and they've given up on the goal and just worry about the things that they can control in their lives. And we need these people. Very important to the economy. Now, a lot of motivational people, they say, you always hear this, like, dream big, reach for the stars. I don't really agree with this. I tell people, I think what you should do, actually, is you should just dream small. That way, when your dream is crushed, it's not that big a deal. Now, like I said, I do a lot of corporate functions. Usually they aren't expecting quite this when I get up there. But I've been asked to address the issue of the multi-generational workplace. Like, this is a new thing, but they pay me, so I came up with some stuff about the multi-generational workplace. And of course, back when I started working, it was more like this. They just didn't listen to you. So the first thing is, like, a lot of people say, well, you know what you need to do? You need to do team building. So I drew, like, okay, here's the team building. Even better, I like this is my favorite one. This is the team player team building. See if you can find where you are in this team building, where you find yourself. And just as a general thing, I tell people avoid any of those outdoor team building exercises. Those are very dangerous. Some companies use a more Darwinistic approach to cut back on the number of employees. But I think what really the more useful thing is, I think, is for us to understand a little bit more about each of the different generations. So I like to start going back to my grandparents' generation. Now, my grandparents' generation, now all my grandparents were born in the 19th century. All four of them were born in the 19th century, and their goal back then was to not die. And what got in the way of that was you're probably gonna die soon. Easy to understand what these folks were about. Then we go to my parents' generation, otherwise known as the greatest generation, and their goal was to have a good job and have lots of kids. And of course, the Depression in World War II got in the way of that, but after that, they were able to get a good job and have lots of kids, and regretted that part of it ever since. Now this brings us to the baby boomers. Now technically I am a baby boomer, but I came at the later end of it. Most baby boomers came of age in the 1960s, and their goal was to have a groovy life man. What got in the way of that was the parents kept talking about the Depression in World War II. This was a serious bummer. And now most of them are Republicans. You figure out what happened. Now this brings us to the millennials. For millennials, their goal is the parents' goal for the child. The obstacle is all kinds of reasons. How to overcome that obstacle? This is where the parent comes into play. Just kind of comes in. Here we go. SAT score is not good enough. Don't worry, we can fix that. Eventually, the helicopter runs out of gas, and the expectation to become a billionaire with some app idea doesn't happen. And just for accuracy, that is a participation trophy right there. So eventually, this doesn't pan out. Reality sets in, and they end up becoming an Uber driver. So you'll see some of these people later tonight. Now, I'm up here talking about success. You may ask yourself, well, is Brian Longwell successful? Brian Longwell, that is me, in case you've already forgotten who I am. The answer to that is yes. I'd make it bigger, but that would be bragging. So let me share with you the Brian Longwell success path. I'm not originally from around here. I'm originally from Western New York State. A town called Horseheads, New York, is where I'm originally from. Horseheads, right here. I did not think it was a funny name for a town until I moved away, and people told me that it was a funny name for a town. A lot of towns and villages further to the East Coast are named after towns and villages from the UK or Europe, but the further they went inland, they started to run out of ideas. Resorted to animal parts. One thing I want to point out is where I grew up is right on the border between the state of New York and the state of Pennsylvania. One thing I want to point out is this border is a straight line. When the border between two states is a straight line, that means when they're dividing up this part of the country, nobody gave a shit about this area. Told the surveyors, go up here, go straight across. Really don't give a shit where you put that border. And that's where I grew up, right on the edge of not giving a shit. I'm glad that I came from a state that has an interesting shape to it. You know, it's like, it would really, really suck if I had to get up here and say, well, I'm from Colorado, North Dakota, South Dakota. Oh, I'm from Utah. We're a little crazy. A little chunk there, Utah. Seems like if you clicked on it with a mouse, it'd become a rectangle again. But eventually I ended up, after I got out of college, I ended up moving to New Hampshire. I was up there for a while, which is right next to Vermont. But now I live right here in Natick these days, so where I live. So here's the Brian Longwell success path that I detail here. So I started out here, one of 8 kids. This kind of sucked. The greatest generation, they had more of a Darwinistic approach to having children. It was like, have a lot, a few will make it. They're like baby sea turtles running for the ocean, you know. There's no helicopter, let me tell you. So I had to pay for college, that also sucked too. But I got a master's degree in electrical engineering, and then I ended up working for Bell Labs, which used to be the research and development part of AT&T, back when AT&T was the largest company in the world, and not just a shitty cell phone company. And by the way, AT&T stands for American Telephone and Telegraph. So next time you go to an AT&T store, ask to see their telegraph coverage map. So parallel to this, I started doing comedy, and I started a company, and now I do corporate comedy. I got some real estate. I got a 401k. There's a divorce in there. And you might think, that sucks. No, that was awesome. Which leads to me where I am right now, which is I have a hot wife with a PhD. Why be successful? It's to get chicks. So one thing I want to point out is that my wife is black, my daughter's adopted from Korea, and my stepson looks like he's Puerto Rican or something. So when the 4 of us are together, nobody can figure out what the hell is going on. Now, when I talk to professional speakers about what I do about giving presentations, they said you need to have these 3 essential elements in your presentation. You need to have a beginning. You need to have an arc to your story. Then you need to have an ending that pulls it all together in a nice, neat package. But life isn't like this. In life, they start off, they go along, and then they stop suddenly, without warning, leaving things hanging there, awkward and unexplained. Thank you very much.